Hello, today we are going to discuss asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. So first starting off with comparing some terminology. So we're going to be talking about two main kinds of cells, which are somatic cells or non-sex cells and sex cells. Another name for somatic cells are zygotic cells or zygotes. That just means a sperm and egg have come together to be the full amount of genetic information. Gametes are just another name for sex cell. Diploid means full amount of genetic information for somatic cell. Haploid means half the amount of genetic information for sex cell. And then these numbers here can kind of confuse people. So 2n and n. Basically, n is just a mathematical variable that means it is the half amount of genetic information of the organism. Okay. So if n is the same thing as what would be in a sex cell, 2n or double that is what would be in a non-sex cell, right? Because in sex cells you have to have half genetic information. Somatic cell has to be double that, the full amount. So basically, 2n and n is just saying that n is what would be in a sex cell, 2n is what would be double that in a somatic cell. So for an example, in humans, in a sex cell, so a sperm or egg cell, there are 23 chromosomes, which is the half amount, because when a sperm or egg cell come together, that then makes 2n, or the 46 chromosome amount, because then you have a zygote, which is a somatic cell, full amount of chromosomes. Okay, here is a little comparison that I made between mitosis and meiosis. I will let you pause this and read that at your leisure, but I will read through this that I made. So asexual reproduction. If an organism reproduces asexually, all of the cells that compose the organism exclusively go through mitosis. Every cell that is ever reproduced is genetically identical to the one it reproduced from. If any mutation, whether positive or negative, occurred, that mutation will carry on to every cell that is asexually reproduced after the mutation occurred. Offspring will exponentially accumulate more and more mutations, most of which are negative, until the species is ill-equipped and inefficient for survival. Now, while the above information may not seem beneficial, asexual reproduction is still needed and very important for growth, healing, and replacement of dead cells in all multicellular organisms. Now, sexual reproduction. If an organism reproduces sexually, that means they are composed of somatic cells that undergo mitosis, and they also produce sex cells by meiosis. The cells formed from meiosis have half the genetic information of the somatic cell. The meiotic cells are also genetically different from one another. When there is diversity between cells, there is genetic variation. When two cells containing half the genetic information unite, a cell with the full and proper amount of genetic material forms, and a zygote now exists. When the fertilization of these sex cells occur, any pre-existing mutations may or may not become prevalent in the offspring. Sexual reproduction can greatly slow down the rate at which mutations accumulate and can even make mutations that were once present no longer present. So we're going to talk about in future videos like how specifically that is made possible or how that is made real by genetic variation. So stay tuned for that. But for now, that is really what you need to know about sexual reproduction. Here is kind of a cyclic graph showing when mitosis and meiosis would occur. So starting at fertilization at the bottom, you have a zygote or a cell with full amount of genetic information, dividing, developing as a fetus. Then that fetus is born as a baby. Then that baby grows up into either an adult male or adult female. And then once basically they're of sexual maturity, meiosis will be happening to create sperm cells or egg cells, which have the half amount, and then eventually sperm and egg cells will unite together to make a new zygote somewhere else, and then this whole process of reproduction starts over. But I just found this image to be helpful. What I've previously said, I just have compared side to side here. Again, I'll let you pause that and read that at your own leisure. But I will talk about this. So sexually reproducing species make up 99.99% of eukaryotic cell species today. Sexually reproducing species are advantageous to asexually reproducing species because genetic variation is a very significant factor for survival. There are three different contributors to genetic variation. There is crossing over, which happens in prophase 1, independent assortment, which happens in metaphase 1, and a third one that we have yet to discuss until now is random combination, which happens with fertilization. So basically, out of all the sex cells that are made, it is completely random which sperm cell and which egg cell will unite together. Basically, that is like the third thing that causes genetic variation, is you never know which sperm cell or which egg cell will unite together. Now, because of genetic variation, sexually reproducing species evolutionarily adapt faster to a changing environment over generations than asexually reproducing species. So again, we will get into more detail as to the specifics of how genetic variation makes this possible. But until then, I hope you enjoy the video. Thank you for watching. Please share and subscribe, and remember to spread kindness.